Alright, so now that we have deleted George, what we're going to do is fill in this area where he was. And we're going to fill that in with the rest of the background. In order to do that, we're going to just zoom in a little bit here, and then we're going to use something called the Clone Stamp tool. Now what this allows you to do is select a part of the image. I'm doing that with the Alt key. If you're using an Apple keyboard, I'm not using an Apple keyboard, but you can click the Option key, and that will do the same thing. If you're using a Windows computer, it's the Alt key. Mac, it's going to be the Option key. You're going to click Option and then click where you want to copy. So right now, since we want to make this background consistent, I'm just going to say parallel with where I'm going to be filling in. So I'm going to go over to the left, I'm going to Alt, and then I'm going to click. And then I'm going to just fill in the image. And as you can see, what it's doing is just copying the pixels that are where it's selected. You'll see where the cross is. That's where the image was actually selected. And we're just going to very carefully fill it in. Now eventually you will get to the point where you'll have to select it again, because it's always in reference to where the cursor is. It's never in reference to a certain point on the screen. So as you can see now, we're getting to the point where it's copying the boy's hair. We don't want it to do that. So we're going to re-click there. So we're just going to click right there, and then we're going to keep doing the same thing. And as you can see, sometimes you run into issues with color not quite matching. That is an issue sometimes. So we're going to remove what we just filled in, and I'm just going to copy from right here. And sometimes you have to go really slow, and you have to be very, very careful so that it all looks right. Because if you don't select the right things, it's just not going to look right. So we're going to select there and just make that color. I'm just going to go over, and as you can see, once you do it enough times, you can just select from there, from what you've just done, instead of what you originally was not there. All right. Alright, and then as you can see, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. We're just going to keep filling it in here. Now, when you get to the part where it's a little bit pixelated, it's going to be difficult, because you see what's happened here is the blue has bled onto where his hair was. So if we zoom out, that's just not going to look right. So we're going to delete what we did here a little bit. Just go back. And we're going to make this slightly smaller, so that way, and we're going to make it this. So what this does, this allows some bleeding over of what you're copying. This does not. So we're going to use that. That way there's no bleeding over where it is, and we're going to get right onto where his hair is there, where there's no white pixels, and when we look over there later, it's going to look correct. Now you don't want to use that too much. You really only want to use this for the edge, because it's not going to give you quite the look that you want. As you can see, it's very, very... the feathering that occurs in this helps make it look a lot better. So I'm just going to use that again. We're going to switch what we're using. I'm going to go back here. Like I said, you can play around with these tools. They're all useful for different purposes. So depending on what kind of image you have, what's behind here, you can use different tools. But the spot healing brush tool is really what you're going to want to use for this process. If you use anything else, it's going to be difficult to make it look right. As you can see, since all that is blue over there, it's going to become much easier now, since we can just click above where we're going. And I think if we look over on the opposite side of the image, we can see that it gets darker as we get lower. And we can kind of see that here too. So we're gonna just click there so that it gets darker. And we're just going to copy that. And if you're not careful, you will get pixels that look exactly the same, like what I just removed there. Either way, we're going to be very, very careful here and just remove that. And I will say it helps if you use a larger brush for most of it, because that way you're less likely that it's going to it's going to look like that, which doesn't really look too good. That's just what happens if you use too small of a brush and you're not careful with what you're selecting. It's going to all look the same. Now, so we're going to continue to very carefully fill in everything here. You really want to be careful with this because it gets very, very... This is the part that people are going to notice. If you don't look right, they're probably not going to notice everything up here, but they will definitely notice if something around the boy does not look right. Something around a person or another object, if it just doesn't look right, that will be very, very noticeable. But it looks like what we're doing here, if you click several times, that will help. Like I said, you just want to reduce the amount of bleeding that you'll have over, so we're going to use a slightly different brush. And you're probably going to have to go back and redo sometimes. And what I'll even do is I'll even zoom in just as far as I can, and then use the smallest possible size. So this is just 1 pixel now. So now I'm just filling in pixel by pixel. And then when I zoom out again, that will look much better than if I had not zoomed in and gone pixel by pixel. And as you can see with low resolution images like this one, you really have to do something like this because there's no way you could get that pixel there without going to the smallest possible size of the brush. So our goal here is consistency. We want everything to look consistent. All right, I'll just speed this up. Alright, so as you can see here, George is completely photoshopped out of the image. And that's it for this stuff.